Good afternoon, everyone. Please excuse my flapping about. We have been beset upon by 6 million flies that have just been dislodged from this small herd of bachelor buffalo bulls. They've decided that Andrew and I represent something far tastier than them. Welcome to Safari Live for the afternoon game drive. Celsius, I'm told that means it's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you living in the 18th century. We have Andrew on the camera. My name is James. On the other vehicle we have Scott and Phil, who's a brand new cameraman, so we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. He certainly couldn't be any worse than me, so that's an excellent thing for us. In the control room we have Eugene, who's been up a ladder most of the day fixing cameras. Thanks for that, Eugene. He's mercifully sultry tones of Nicky Steven Spielberg Austin giving us instruction. Our plan this afternoon, before I tell you our plan, please remember that we love to hear from you. Your comments and your questions and anything else that you have to say, especially if you see stuff at the dam cameras that we've got going. We love to hear from you, so please keep your comments coming. Remember, no questions are stupid, and nothing that you have to say in the most serious and considered fashion, so please keep talking to us. Hashtag Safari Live is the Twitter handle, or questions at WildEarthTV. Our plan today is to see these buffalo here have been lying here probably for most of the day. That's generally what they do when it's quite warm at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Two of them are having a bit of a fight. Also what happens when you put too much. I know that you spent quite a lot of time, or those of you who were with us on the morning drive spent quite a lot of time with Brent and the lions this morning. They were there not too long ago, in the same place that he left them. So we're going to go and see first if they are in fact still there, and then probably spend much of the afternoon with them, depending on what Scott's doing. With them, and it's always a pleasure to sit in the company of the cats. They did move eventually when it got a bit cooler and darker, but they spent most of the afternoon sort of between now and 5:15 doing what cats do best, which is absolutely nothing. So we're going to pop along there and see what we can see. Andrew was just asking, did I think that they were going to try and hunt these buffalo, and I had to say I didn't. That we thought they were hungry last night. It was a full moon last night, so they would really have struggled to hunt, and I don't think that pride with what looks to me 4 adult lionesses and a couple of juveniles and then the young male, I don't think that they would manage to take down their sort of best bet at this stage. Perhaps a zebra, but zebra up here in this part of the reserve are fairly few and far between. So maybe a nyala, but kudu's going to be their best bet. You check Google. Here we go. This waterhole is known as Buffels.
Well, good afternoon and welcome on board the Sunset Safari with myself and Phil. It's so great to have Phil with us. He arrived probably just about an hour ago and he's already on the back of the vehicle and so happy to be out and amongst the wilderness. It's a beautiful day, as I'm sure you're aware, and Phil is so happy to be here because he's actually been in the and always, I know, I speak from experience, once you've come from a city back into the bush, if you do love the bush, it's the best feeling ever. So Phil is excited to be with us and we're excited to have him on board. So the plan for Phil and myself this afternoon is to initially we'll continue following up on male leopard tracks. They look like they could be tracks of Mvula, a large male leopard. We had them heading in this general direction. Road junction only veered off the road slightly, but still heading west, and that in itself is quite interesting because that means he's heading closer towards Tingana, and there are these theories about, we've yet to see any confrontations between them, but we do feel that Tingana could be pushing Mvula. Tingana is another dominant male leopard to the west of us, and further west of Tingana is the Anderson male, who's a young male but really big and strong, and he's putting dynamics that we can hopefully be a part of, and the best start for doing that would be to find Mvula and see what happens. So without further ado, let's continue, and apologies for the break in signal from James's vehicle. And how awesome is it that we've already got lions for this afternoon's show, and that we are going to get some great action out of them today. They're really hungry and hopefully they are going to show us the skills of a pride of lion hunting together. It's quite a windy afternoon, which actually makes for good conditions for predators to hunt in, because from the wind rustling all the dry leaves and grass will muffle the approach of any predator sneaking up on its prey. The prey are naturally that much more alert and nervous in windy weather for this reason. But that's certainly something bearing in mind for this afternoon and those lion, and when they get active and start hunting. And the same goes for the male leopard that we enjoy some good hunting this afternoon, at least we hope he will. The tracks that I found look very fresh, but when I say very fresh, I mean from probably last night. I don't think anybody drove the road where we found the tracks now this afternoon, so we can kind of assume sometime during the day. Yesterday he moved during the day and Brent and myself tracked him. There's quite a few pretty little birds here, but as normal they've fluttered off. Just making sure we don't get any opportunities to find another one. And even though you might not be able to see them, you can just listen, and so far I've seen blue waxbills, little bee eaters, a fork-tailed drongo, southern black tits. Ooh, I think if you zoom into the tree with the dark green leaves, slightly on the left of your monitor now. There we go, that's the one. We're a bit far away and I'm not sure if the little bird's still there, but there was a small bird that I've yet to show you. It's still fluttering oh sorry, not a southern boo-boo, a bru-bru, B-R-U-B-R-U. And you don't see them very often, but I don't think we're going to see this one today, but it was certainly worth a try. It's somewhere in there. Focused on through all that foliage, and it's not uncommon for birds to congregate together and move through the bush in these small bird parties. I guess from a safety point of view it makes sense, and there's more eyes and ears to keep an eye out for any predators. Okay, well, as you can hear, it has quietened down considerably, and the birds have moved off, and we will do the same thing. Now, what I plan to do is loop around an area where the tracks are, and once you've exhausted those options, then you need to think about a plan B. It would be so nice to find Nkuhuma. He's an absolutely beautiful big male leopard, and I'm hoping that we're going to get to spend some Let's hope they are still there. They probably are, but I have kind of counted my ducks, my chickens, before the eggs have hatched here. So let's go and find out if James has.
Dip, and perhaps a piece of space debris hit a satellite or some such. Anyway, we're back now. I specifically held off on going to the lions before you came back, just so that we can discover them together. Expecting fireworks from them at this time of the day, but we might be lucky. Will, but if they did, you'd probably find that they move down towards the south where there's a perennial river, so they'll be okay. Right, now as soon as I get a slight pan through just to show you what or how we spot them out here, if we spot them.
I already had a glimpse back there.
Okay, Andrew's already had a glimpse. Andrew, can you try and just get that glimpse there? Try and get that glimpse on camera. Andrew. So we know that we can drive up to them and stop the car and they'll hardly react. But I really enjoy experiencing them in the way that is slightly wilder and in a way that sort of certainly pays them respect. And you can imagine a predator walking past here. Kudu would see them from coming through here. Okay, so we're going to get a bit closer, see who's there and what they're up to. And there we have the famous carpet of lions. I really don't like. Sometimes it's unavoidable and I don't think they're going to panic and rush off. Exactly like yesterday, the older lioness seems to be the most active one. I think they've eaten something. Andrew, can you go across to the male's belly there? They may have caught something small earlier today, and I suspect he would have then just used his greater bulk and stolen it. He's definitely eaten something. But the lioness, the big one who stood up, definitely hasn't. Or if she has, it wasn't very much. Make a confession to those of you who've been watching for a little while. I've been talking about the ability of lions and... oh, hang on, there's some noise in the drainage line below. Just going to try and hear it. And definitely something in there, but doesn't seem to be affecting the lions. We'll keep an ear out. I've told you that lions have or members of the genus Panthera have what we call an ossified larynx or a bony larynx, and I've managed to get my story mixed up. What it actually is the bones that suspend the larynx. Okay. The hyoidean apparatus, try and say that quickly after a couple of drinks, hyoidean apparatus. In lions, it's elastic. There's a cartilaginous section in the middle which allows the larynx to move in the throat. And in the smaller cats, like your house cats, or like the cheetah we sometimes see out here, so from the genus Achionyx, which is the cheetah, which the smaller cats reside, that hyoidean apparatus is ossified, so it is solid and the larynx cannot move. Now this makes a lot of sense if you've ever heard a lion giving a roar, and if you haven't, I would suggest you find a clip on YouTube. There are many of them there you'll be able to hear at the end of the roar. There is and when the books talk about the voice box or larynx moving in this elastic suspensorium, you can hear it. So I've now been put right, and I thank you for those of you who realized and didn't make a fool of me on live streaming. I think there's an elephant through there. See the trees moving? Well, certainly something larger than a Franklin. The lions don't appear to be too fazed by it. Just while they sleep here, I'm going to sneak a little bit closer into the drainage line and see if we can't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an elephant. Nice. I was just saying to Andrew as we arrived here today, I was hoping to find an elephant. In California, John sorry everybody, we're going to lose you if we go down into that drainage line, so I'm going to wait for an elephant to come out if he is in fact there. John, you wanted to know, when does hunger overcome laziness in lions? And the answer is, when we talk about, it's me being a bit facetious. They're not being lazy, they have to behave like this. As I've said before a few times to, in sort of different contexts, cats eat a diet almost exclusively of protein. Very few of the African antelope that they eat, or the buffalo, have any form of fat on the meat. So for their body, energy from protein is an expensive process, and so they don't have the same levels of quick energy that a carbohydrate eater like a herbivore would have, or especially a fruit eater or a nut eater. Nut eaters will get tremendous amounts of fat. Fruit eaters will get bursts of sugar, which will help them to sort of activity, whereas the cats and the dogs eat a lot of meat, protein, which they then have to convert to energy. So that's not an easy process. So to answer your question, at what point would they be able to sort of overcome this soporific way of life because their hunger's too much? I can't really answer that, save to as they can. So they can probably move, they'll sleep on average 20 hours a day. If they're eating, they'll sleep maybe for 22 hours a day, and if they're not eating, if they're hungry like this, maybe it's closer to 16. That lioness there, Andrew, is the one with the orange eyes, the one doing the licking. We discovered last night that orange eyes compared with the yellowy, greeny color of the rest. That crunching of vegetation seems to have stopped, but perhaps it's an elephant going off to the waterhole to drink, and if so, we'll probably hear him move again. One of the interesting things that you might not find it interesting, but I find it first quite interesting. When we think about mammals and you think about the limbs that they have, they are we are all so similar. So if you look, Andrew, can you get a close-up of the back foot there? That back bend that you see in the lion, at first glance we think of that as being like a knee joint, and it isn't. The bend that's going backwards there, with the little scar on it. So, well, maybe it's easier if I can zoom in with my eyes. But let's start with the claws. If you can get in as close in as possible. Thank you very much. All right. So think of the claw, and if you've got a house cat with you, grab it and examine its back foot. Back foot there, you can see, is made up of the same sort of structure, similar structure as the front of your foot and your toes. That back bending thing that at first glance looks like the knee is in fact the same as your ankle joint, right? And the knee occurs much closer there, the one that's bending there. Go just a little bit to the left. Joint on the lion is in fact the knee joint. I'll try and explain that again when they stand up. But even when you look at a bat or something, a bat has got 2 legs, it's got 2 arms, and it's even got 5 digits that spread out through the wings. Even a horse has got the remnants of digits within its hooves. And obviously the closer you get to us, so by closer I mean, more closely related, things like a chimpanzee will be even more similar. And it all speaks to a common ancestry, somewhere way back in prehistory. So there's a bit of a breeze out this afternoon. It's a very pleasant temperature at the moment. The light is quite sort of dappled by the quite heavy clouds, and it's just great sitting here with these wonderful cats and enjoying their company, even if they aren't doing anything particularly exciting. Okay, so while we continue to observe these lions doing what they do very best in the world, we're going to cross to Scott, who is at another waterhole, and we'll see what's come down to drink there.
Welcome to the Treehouse Waterhole, and it's alive with activity, mainly a lot of big old buffalo bulls. They were getting a little bit worked up with one another earlier, but have seemed to have calmed down and solved whatever dispute between the old men. But quite a few birds, and on the edges of the waterhole you may notice a few small birds, and we've got 2 different species that Phil is busy zooming into at the moment. Now, and the other is a plover. They both used to be plovers. The larger one is now called a blacksmith lapwing. It used to be a blacksmith plover. And the smaller one that's just disappeared out of screen was there we go, a 3-banded, well, it is a 3-banded plover. They are birds often found at waterholes. And we do find not only the aquatic birds that rely on the water, but also a lot of other birds coming to drink. It's becoming very dry as we head into our winter, and these water points start really becoming a great place to try and find animals. It all depends on timing, of course. There's not a constant stream of animals continually coming to drink. If you get lucky, you get to find them here. The buffaloes are very often here. They, at this time of the year, like to relax during the day and do their feeding at night. I guess while they're all lying here, they are, in a sense, feeding, as they need to chew the cud. And this is a good time for them to relax and chew on their cud, providing them with more nutrients than had they were to just feed on it once and it would just pass through a one-chambered stomach. They've got a four-chambered stomach, so this does ensure that they, like cows and other ruminants, like giraffe, for example, really do create and ensure that they maximize their feeding. Elephants on the so they are not very efficient feeders, and a lot of their food matter passes out very partially digested. Now, we're going to continue from this beautiful setting and see what else we can find. It appears that this leopard may have come in off our southern boundary tracks that look very similar to the large male leopard tracks we were following earlier, heading towards the dam. And I'm just going to start checking up along this road. Further along this road that we're about to turn onto now is where we initially found these leopard tracks this afternoon. We're actually coming down here on the way to the dam. But before we got here, we were stopped direction. So I'm guessing the leopard may have come in, drank, and then moved up and continued his generally northwards movements. Very happy to hear that the lion are still there with James, and interesting that James thinks the young male has managed to feed on a little bit, so they may have last night, but I still think there's going to be some good action with those lion at some points on this sunset safari. I'm just checking very carefully to see whether this male leopard, here he is, his tracks have just popped up here. They're going to to show you, but I'm going to try and find a clear one. Let's traverse a little bit. Phil, if you can just start zooming in on the right hand side of the road, then I'll just use my finger to help you in there. We've got some interesting bits of additional equipment on these cameras to keep them steady, and Phil's just busy getting the hang of it. Okay. Now, if you just zoom in, Phil. Over there, I think. So on the edge of my finger here, you can see the track of a leopard, and it's not easy to see, but you can make out the very vague pug mark and then the toes in the front. They're heading in that direction, and there are one or two more. It's not easy to show you, so we are just going to continue on. But before we do that, I think we're going to cross back to James so we can get the camera sorted out, and we will catch up with you again later.
Hi everyone, welcome back again. We've left those lions for a little while. I wanted to just check and see if the elephant hadn't popped out at the waterhole. He hasn't. And so we're just going to do a little bumble around here, see what else we can see what other tracks have come on or off the reserve during the course of the day or last night, and then we're going to wind our way, sit with them for just about the whole day yesterday, or a whole afternoon yesterday. And I'm just trying to get you a bit of a view here. Andrew, can we try and get a look at the mountains there through that tree? I don't know if you can get them. Sorry, I do tend to put Andrew on the spot a little bit. I might have to. It's just a really nice high point. There are not many of them here. And there, you may have noticed if you've watched me before that I'm a particular fan of those mountains. And if you get up into them there around Hoedspruit, which is a slightly dubious settlement, certainly less dubious than its cousin Phalaborwa. If you get into the mountains around there, there are beautiful natural forests and rivers, and this world's second largest canyon, if I'm not mistaken, called the Blader River Canyon. So, I mean, quite apart from the 3.5 million hectares of wildlife land that we have here in the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, all the way up to the mountains, you'll find little gems to go and see and explore. If you like hiking, if you like game driving, if you like birding, if you like adventure sports, the sort of area of... So what I'm saying to you is, pack your bags, get in an aeroplane, and come and see us. We'd love to have you here and show you live what's going on. So this is the northern boundary that we have between also private landowners and Djuma. Djuma, I found out today from one of the Shangaan ladies here, is a and I knew another word for it. So I went and I asked her, and she said no. Djuma is not the word for the full-blooded roar that a lion gives. That they use the word bonga, or just the word for cry, which is rila. Djuma. It's a very onomatopoeic word, and it's that grunt that the lion makes when they're, or when they are just sort of trying to communicate with each other within a group, and they'll go jo. So Djuma. It's a wonderful Shangaan word meaning that sort of leonine grunt. This is round about where we lost the lions last night, and then they crossed north. They came all the way around to the east and back onto Djuma, but they have yet to find something nice to devour. Deborah in Ohio, you have asked a fascinating question. Thank you very much for it, and welcome to the afternoon game drive. Sorry, I'm just checking the road here. You wanted to know what would happen if an elephant came across a pride of lions. Now, elephants generally will be fairly aggressive. lions. They perceive them not for adults so much as a threat, but their memories are long and they perceive them as a threat to the youngsters. And almost universally an elephant will chase lions. If they find them on the ground, they'll chase them away. The lions, unless they're a specialized pride with lots of big males in it, won't think about attacking an elephant. There are parts of Botswana when the drought gets so bad that the elephants have to come towards the water holes. There are prides of lions that specialize in killing young elephant, especially when they've been weakened by drought. But in this area, it would be almost unheard of for a pride of lions to kill an elephant. So we're now on the eastern boundary. Some beautiful clouds that Andrew's found there. He seems to be slightly fascinated with clouds. David in Michigan, you've hit me with a slightly more complex question, more difficult than what does a lion weigh, for example. You've said you've heard that in Tanzania, or you've found a reference in Tanzania that says lions will teach their cubs to hunt specific kinds of prey. Now, I don't know that that's necessary. And this is maybe where it's come from, is that certain lions will specialize in certain kinds of prey, and the cubs that are born into those prides will probably develop that specialization with them. So you have those lions in Botswana that will specialize in elephant hunting when it's very dry, or even hippo hunting when it's pretty dry. And then you have areas in the Kruger Park where lions will concentrate on zebra, or you might have them on wildebeest or buffalo. It all depends on the area and often the size of the pride. The wind is coming up a bit, and this will be advantageous to those lions should they decide that tend to see far less general game on windy days, because the animals like to hide when it's windy, because it's difficult for them to see predators, or difficult for them to smell and hear predators, not see them. Now that is interesting. Andrew, do you see what I'm looking at?
Yes, I do.
So before we go back to the lions, I just want to make sure that the owner of the skin isn't still in the tree. Here is a snake skin. I'm going to take it out. I will put it back again. Shout please if you see the snake, to whom it used to belong. Oh, there's a reason it's so thorny. Just want to try and get the head. There we go. Put it over here for you, Andrew. So there is the head. Can you see it there? Not very well. Shall we take it out of the light and put it over here rather? So that's better. There you can see the head quite nicely. And from the size of the eyes, which you can just about see, there are scales over the eyes. This looks to me like it was a boomslang or a tree snake. Now, a tree snake or boomslang is the most venomous snake in Africa. The most venomous. So I was extremely brave to go and get this for you. And that's about how long he is, so that looks like almost an adult. Now, I'll explain a bit about the venom just now. I'm just going to put this back in the tree. Something will eventually come and eat it. Now, the reason it's in a thorn tree is that for a snake to be able to slough off the skin, remember they have to shed the skin when they get to a certain size, that thorn tree helps them to wriggle out of the old skin, because as you could see there, it was caught quite nicely into the tree. So that's a boomslang. And the boomslang or tree snake, as I said, is the most poisonous snake that we get here in South Africa. In fact, I think in all of the continent. And we work that out by saying how much of the venom would it take to knock out, say, a human being. And the answer is a minuscule amount. So less than I don't know what the exact figure is, but it's less than a tiny, tiny drop. But what it is, it's a highly slow acting venom. It's called a hemotoxin, which means that it will affect the blood mainly. And it will thin your blood and result in, say, 48 hours you'd hemorrhage from internally and eventually die. That's not, I don't think, the way I want to go one day. But it can be treated, certainly. And you've got at least 48 hours. The snake is also very, very docile and very retreating, so retiring. It will generally move away long before it thinks about biting you, and even if it does bite you, it's got fangs that are placed in the back of the mouth, and so for it to actually get hold of you or stick the venom into your hand, it's really got to get 2 or 3 good bites on, after which you would be in some trouble unless you sought medical attention. This is unlike the black mamba. The black mamba tends to be a bit more easily upset, shall we say. And with a black mamba, you've got about an hour before you must be in the hands of a doctor. Plug myself back in. Off we go. Nasty little tree is called Gymnosporia buxifolia, or the common spike thorn, and it has indeed spiked me. Right, while we make our way slowly back to the lions, we're going to cross back to Scott, who seems to have found a dazzle of zebra.
Welcome back, and I have no doubt that you've been having a good time with James. And great to hear that you found a snake skin. We don't see as much snake activity in terms of tracks on the road in the winter months. They are still here and they are still moving around, but not nearly as much as the warmer months in summer. So skins are typically what you're going to be seeing at this time of year. And let's just take a closer look at this beautiful zebra. He's the last one left. I think it's a male. The rest of the herd have moved off into much thicker vegetation. off to our right, which will make filming very tricky. But this individual is standing beautifully out in the afternoon sunshine, and the golden afternoon light in winter is really soft and great for photography and just for general viewing. And I'm hoping he's going to parade past our vehicle to keep up with the rest of the herd. I keep saying it's a male, but it could be a female. It's difficult to... It's a female according to Phil. And isn't she pretty? Typically how it works in zebra herds is that there'll be one dominant stallion and then all of his ladies. Now depending on how dominant he is, he could have anywhere from 2 or 3 to 10 females in his harem. And unlike the impala, like we saw fighting this morning, the zebra will fight throughout the year for their ladies, whereas impala will concentrate during the rutting period, which has technically come to a close now at the end of May. It typically lies for the month of May, but mainly the first 2 weeks after the first full moon in May. So interesting how the different dynamics are between different animals. Let's take a closer look at the zebra here. Now, when will she move? Those little hoof stomps, so possibly to get the flies off her, and you'll notice how she twitches her skin every few seconds, as well as the tail swishing from side to side permanently. And now you can hear some oxpeckers flying overhead. Very distinctive call, and there were 3 of them that just flew down and landed on some of the other zebra in the thicker vegetation off to our right, but we can't see them there. Oh, there's one that's landed on Our Lady out in the open here. So now you can see it and hear it calling. And these are the same birds we saw briefly, or often do see, hopping around on buffalo and many of the other herbivores. They provide a great service to them, even though sometimes they can be a little bit intrusive, hopping around their eyes and their ears and between their legs. But without those little birds, the herbivores in this area would be in a far worse condition, as they would have a far greater amount of parasites on them. Well, good afternoon, Ginny, and you may have just joined in because Ginny would like to know why this zebra is alone, and it's actually not alone. It's just temporarily, very slightly detached from the rest of the herd. And what we'll do is we'll attempt to show you some of the other members of this herd of zebra. They're just behind us over here, and Phil will take you across and show you them now. It's not very clear as there's a lot of trees in the way, but there's 2 more there. I can see another 1. So there's at least 4 that I've seen so far, but I've no doubt there could be a few more hidden off deeper into this thick vegetation. There you can see another one very vaguely moving its head between those branches. So not to worry, Jenny, it's not on its own, but occasionally you will find zebra alone, old stallions that are retired and hung up their boots of being a family man. They will spend time on their own, possibly joining up with other animals like wildebeest or impala, just for a company and a safety perspective. That's often quite a good thing for lone animals to do. Wildebeest and zebra are both similar in that case, or they could find bachelor herds. Now we're just going to continue on and try and get a little bit closer to the zebra, but the reason why I would like to continue is because we're very close to the hyena den site, which I'd like to pop in and have a look at. We've had no further luck on the leopard tracks that we saw earlier, but it could be anywhere, so even this area that we're in now could provide us with a bit of luck. Oh, well, we're going to get some great shots here. The zebra is so close. You can hear the oxpecker is still really having a proper go at it. That's exactly what I mean, how the oxpeckers can be a little bit intrusive. They try to climb into the ears and in and around the nostrils and eyes of their hosts. And that's often where the ticks actually like to latch on. It's where the skin is the thinnest and the softest, and also probably the most difficult for the oxpeckers to, the zebra to actually remove ticks from those parts of their body. So if it wasn't for these little oxpeckers, they would have ears clogged with ticks. No wonder what there's so much to talk about this afternoon, what this oxpecker is saying to the others nearby. Well, like a lot of the animals out here today, they're going to be still relaxing in the shade. It's still fairly warm, and in the next half an hour or so it should start cooling down considerably as sunset approaches. Well, good afternoon, Diane in Texas, and welcome on board with us. Diane would like to know if zebras will ever browse on leaves, or are they strictly grazers of grass? Good question, Diane. As far as I've seen, they only ever eat grass, and even that they're quite fussy and particular about. They like very short grass. They don't like long grass, and that's why we don't get too many of them out here. They are plains animals, and as you would have noticed if you've been on a few of our safaris, this area of the Sabi Sands doesn't have many open clearings. And I've never seen a zebra eating leaves, not even in drought or very dry conditions. Absolutely beautiful, all those stripes. You can really get hypnotized by them, and I'm going to ask Phil to slowly pan across its body like that, and you'll see what I mean by that hypnotic flow of stripes. Oh, I think Phil did a great job there on taking you on a tour of this bizarrely coloured animal. And this camouflage is known as disruptive camouflage. It helps to confuse predators when animals like this who live in herds almost blend into one being. Well, Brent's come out to help us, it sounds like, so I'm going to give him a quick update. Afternoon, Brent. Brent, I'm not copying you, but maybe you can copy me. James did manage to relocate on the Nkuhumas, and I think he's just driving around that general area, waiting for them to get a little bit more active. And then I had tracks of a large male leopard on Shibam Road, Savage's Track, and they popped out on Shibam Philemon's cut line, and then I don't know where they went from there. And there was also tracks of possibly the same male coming in on Shibam Treehouse, and then from there I think he moved north onto Savage's Track. Oh no, I was on the wrong channel there, so that was a complete waste of time, as that radio wave did not go to Brent. Well folks, we're going to move on down to the hyena den site, see if it's active. It wasn't active this morning, and in the meantime we're going to link across to James and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back everybody to Wendy. Those animals need no introduction, of course. They are the great, sorry about the radio. They are the great African elephant, and they're here at that Buffelshoek waterhole. I have to confess that we went back to look for the lions, and they have, remember I said as the wind came up, I said I wonder if they won't move, and they have in fact upped and skedaddled. We came to the water here to check if this is where they had perhaps come, and they might still be making their way here for a drink. And here we found these wonderful elephants, and I'm sure this is what we heard crunching through the undergrowth when we first got to the lions. So I'm kind of hoping that they're going to pop out just now. The lions, that is. In the meantime, the elephants will have their daily drink next to 27 buffalo bulls and one lonesome hippo. I'm so happy to see the elephants. I haven't seen any for a while. And also, much like the buffalo, when the weather gets dry and the drought sets in, or the dry season sets in, they will need to drink more and more in order for their digestions to deal with the drier food that they're eating. Look at the puff of dust there coming off. One of them's just thrown a whole lot of dust on himself. There he goes. Lovely the way it catches the light. Not sure if you heard that, but the matriarch has definitely said to them it's time to move on. Or she said something to them. I don't speak elephant, but with that infrasonic rumble. Now look how incredibly agile that elephant was. I don't know, Andrew, did you pick that up? Sorry, I didn't see it. That elephant walking along the top of the wall there has climbed up there, and often people think when they're on foot, we'll climb on top of a wall like this and we'll be perfectly safe should the elephant take offense at us. You can see how amazingly agile they are for their size. Yeah, look, she's definitely said to them it's time to, we've had our drink, let's move on. That's a beautiful sight. We might try and get around the front of them. Pamela, you ask a fascinating question. Thank you for your question. You ask, do we get forest elephants here as opposed to the savanna elephant, which is what we're looking at now? The forest elephant, Loxodonta cycloites, is only found in the Central African rainforests and sort of the Congo Basin and up in those areas. Much smaller forest-dwelling species, and as far as I know has never occurred down here with Loxodonta africana, or the savanna elephant. So mainly just in the Central African rainforests. I'm going to just see if we can't get a slightly better view. If Wendy starts. I think we should have another look at these elephants. They're rather special, so I'm going to try and do that before we go and search for those recalcitrant lions again. Right, so what we're going to do is drive at a bit of speed to get through this this dip, because you might lose our signal. If you do, I'll see you on the other side. I don't want to go too fast because we don't want to irritate the elephants or make them comfortable. You seem to still be with me, which is great. Right, our best route is going to be to go a bit forward and try and get a little bit to the side in front of them so we can see them coming past, rather than bashing in after them. There they are. Right, now while you enjoy the elephants here, I'm just going to quickly talk to Scott, who's going to come and help us to find the elephants. Scott, come in. Scott, come in, Scott.
Afternoon, James. Just wondering where you checked after establishing that they're not there?
We just turned around straight out and came to the water. We haven't checked otherwise. There were no tracks on the road there.
Okay, I'll come up on the other road north and take it on there.
Copy. Isn't this wonderful? They're the most peaceful elephants when they feel animals when they feel unthreatened. Covering the way the dust is moving there. I don't know if you can see that. Andrew, can you give us a picture of the dust there? Beautiful in the light. And being around relaxed elephants is one of the most awe-inspiring and peaceful experiences you could ever have. There's something very profound about them. I'm going to just be quiet for the next 30 seconds, and I want you to see what kinds of noises that they make that you can hear, because it is astonishing that probably 15 elephants that we've got here, even more, can be as silent as they are. Isn't that unbelievable? The largest land mammal in the world can move more silently than 15 people could move through there. Okay, there's one of them, the cows, who's not very comfortable. I'm going to let her just express herself briefly, and if she gets too much more uncomfortable, I'm going to reverse back. Funny how sometimes they will look at us and be totally relaxed, and then the wind will change and they'll smell us and they suddenly get uncomfortable. I think she's okay. You can see that she is streaming from behind her temporal gland, so that's the gland behind the eye there. It indicates some form of stress. Could have been some being chased, it could be heat, it could be anything, it could be sickness. Now here's a big matriarch coming now. She's also just having a look. Again, she's streaming too. Something has stressed these elephants out, which isn't great. So if they're getting any more upset, I'm going to just back off a bit and give them some space. I think that's the matriarch. I hope you can hear me. I think that would be the matriarch. I might be wrong. She's also pregnant. You can see a heavy bulge on the left-hand side of her, just shining in the sun there. That's a baby. They're very protective. I suspect because of the wind they can smell us quite strongly. She's definitely not very happy. So we're going to sit very quietly for the next little while. The rest of the herd seems okay. I cannot tell you how awe-inspiring it is to be in the presence of animals like this, who at a single notice or at a whim could turn around and flip this vehicle over, but from whom you just don't get that sense of threat. If you've been around elephants for long enough, you can tell when they're uncomfortable enough to do that. Well, I say that, but you don't want to make any guarantees. So she's assessed our threat there and obviously decided that we're not anything too dreadful, and she's moved on a bit. We could probably go forward and she might turn around again. I just don't want to, after she's gained our trust, make a big noise and move forward again. Okay, we can go a little bit now. The sun is not great for the camera, but it's all right. Harry in Colorado, you ask a very interesting question, and thank you for it. You'd like to know if the supposedly extinct Knysna elephant was a forest elephant or a savanna elephant. Now, I'm going to just drive around onto a road parallel with where we are now, and while I'm doing it, I'll explain that to you, Harry. It's a very good one. Watch your head there, Master Thorn. Acacia burkii has done severe damage to Andrew. To go with some of the severe damage he experienced yesterday at my hands, my driving. Okay, Harry, the Knysna elephant, there's some dispute, but no, they are savanna elephants, they're not forest elephants. But the interesting thing is that they were probably never truly forest elephants. They're not extinct, there are some there now, but we think that that's a remnant population that came to that area probably because of hunting pressure on the savannas around the forest. So the Tsitsikamma forest or Knysna forest is not an enormous expanse of forest. I mean, for South Africa it is, but it's nothing like the Congo Basin, for example. And so we reckon that they were probably a remnant population that made a living in the, or survived in the forest because of hunting pressure. So they moved into the forest when the hunters came through with their big guns. Andrew, they should be off on the left here, pretty close by. Of course, they may have decided to turn around and go the other way. Would be in keeping with much of my luck. We're just going to go up to the top here and then turn off and listen, because they do make a little bit of noise now and then. Right. Can you listen for 20 seconds? That's very odd, I can't hear them. I don't think they're very happy, those elephants. I'm going to drive a little bit forward, see if they don't pop out. Otherwise, we might go back to the dam to see if we can find the lions. If any of you watching have a preference to see the lions or the elephants, let me know, and we shall do what you want. Your wish is our command. I don't see them coming out here. I'm going to drive a little bit into the bush here. But like, there they are. Like I said to you, they did seem a little bit stressed. So I'm not going to go herring in after them. Just under that marula tree, I think I saw one. I'll be glad if I saw that and Andrew didn't, because the last 4 times we've been looking for animals, he spotted them long before I did. Yes, that is them there. Just behind that big marula tree there. This is not ideal elephant viewing country. Get into the clearing there and see if we can't get a decent view. their head. There we can see them. A decent view of one now. Of course, being silent driving through this fairly thick woodland in a V6 Land Rover is not easy. They're all streaming from their temporal glands. You'd rather stay with the elephants, so that's what we'll do for the next little while. They are heading slightly north, which means that they may pass out of Djuma. Hell with them. Lily, hello Lily, thanks for your question. Lily's from Dayton Children's Hospital in Ohio, some of our most... We love hearing from them. Lily, you want to know how on earth an elephant can get so big when all it eats is grass and leaves? Lily, that's not a very easy question to answer, but the answer is something along the lines of they've got very special tummies that are able to digest the food in a way that ours couldn't. So if we were to eat just grass and get very big at all, we'd all end up around about my size, which is no good at all. But because elephants have got special stomachs and special ways of digesting food, sorry about that, they are able to make use of the nutrients that you can find in grass and trees and fruit and bark and seeds and roots, and that's tall kids, and short mums and dads will make short kids. I don't know what happened to me, but the elephants, it's the same sort of thing. So a big animal has a genetic or a sort of genetic legacy of size, and so they will give birth to animals that must grow big, will naturally grow big. Your size isn't always related to how well you eat. Scott has a position where he found the lions, but they are not moving. They're in some thick bush, fast asleep, and they're also in an area where we seem to have lost signal. So he's going to stay with them and just see if they move or not, and we'll stay with the elephants. So we may have the best of both worlds here. Now that, or the sickle bush, and you can see how that tree has modified its shape probably 2 or 3 times. Now it's fascinating because the Dicrostachys bush is one of Africa's most sort of ardent invasive species. So it's not invasive as in alien, but it does come from or does invade grassland areas where that used to be grass. So it's a bush encroacher. And in the absence of elephants, it becomes a real problem. But where there are elephants, it is obviously kept at a very manageable size and height. And gently ebb down the road here. Mary in Michigan, you are clearly a thinker, and we love that. Thank you for that. You've asked a very good question. You've said if we had driven over some lion dung, would we have not transferred the sort of smell of lions to the Land Rover, and would that not make the elephants uncomfortable? The answer is it's possible, certainly, but the smell of the Land Rover is quite strong. You know, there are a lot of engine oils, there are a lot of fluids, there are a lot of the petrol gives it quite a strong smell. And I don't think that would have happened. It's not impossible, it's not a bad theory, but I think that our smell as two human beings and the smell of the petrol fumes or gas fumes would be much stronger than the lion fumes. And I think, yes, they may well pick up the lion dung smell, but I think they'll register quite quickly that there aren't lions around. But that's a very good question.